short, as the committee senior vice chair, it's not my intention to interpolate my own chair. I would just like to spread into the record some of my concerns and actually I'd say learnings, no, in one of the committees that I chair. So I chair the committee on SDGs, innovation and futures thinking. And what we have realized is that during this time of COVID, it has been an opportunity for us to recognize and stare into the face that this world we are living in, as termed by the experts, futures thinking expert, is a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And because of that, we need to apply futures thinking in all our preparations for our country. And this is the right time to do it during the budget. Mr. President, dear Chair, in my own attempt to prepare a budget that builds back stronger for the Department of Education, the Commission on Higher Education, and all the SUCs, including UP and PGH, that played a big role in the management of COVID, and then all the other cultural agencies, and then DOH and PhilHealth. I'd like to ask for the indulgence and support of our colleagues that in the days to come, let's always be able to take a step into the future, or as the future thinkers like to put it, put ourselves already in the future and look back to this time and ask ourselves what would we have done if we lived in 2020. So if I can ask all of you, including the agency heads, to imagine that you live in the year 2045 and you're looking back and you're saying, what should these people have done in the year 2020, 25 years ago, when that thing called COVID hit, when they were all walking around with masks? What should we have done then? So that's the question. That's how I would like to ask even our agency heads to take a few moments to think about in the days, weeks, and months to come, as they will implement the budget that we will give, and me and my colleagues as we implement. We don't have a crystal ball, but what we can do, and strategically it is being done in many countries already, is literally map out and visualize and see what are those different alternative futures. So this could be a future where tiis muna tayo for 5 years, but then we come back so much stronger in 5 years because we invested in the right programs. Or nagpapanik tayo and we're just plugging the gaps, and we don't do enough long-term investments, pero para supposedly happy lang lahat, we plug the gaps for now, but 5 years later we're still building back the same houses, building back the same hospitals, the same classrooms, the same homes that are ruined by typhoons. So yun lang naman. Hindi na ako magpapakahaba. I just want to put that on record that it is our obligation to include funding for the future, not just for today. So many times we are tempted, I think is the word, or constrained to deal with the now, but it is really also our obligation to consider the future. In fact, I forget what country it is, but there is a country that for the budget to pass, they must be able to defend that it will serve the future something like 50 years from now. May ganun country na ganun mag-isip, no? Sana we will get to that point where we are able to really look beyond momentarily filling the gap, because it is a natural response by most developing countries, and I feel like we are at that point where we can dream bigger and plan better by doing that. Mr. President, just to mention, Singapore has an integrated foresight framework on urban planning, and that's setting their goals for 40 to 50 years. I know meron naman tayong ganyan managed by NEDA. So I simply will reiterate my concern and my request that yung budget sana natin is really aimed at different scenarios in the future. And it's incorrect for us to only plan for one future kasi it doesn't turn out that way. Katulad nito, di naman natin in-expect na dalawang back-to-back bagyo ang tatama sa atin. But I think part of our planning includes budget for that. But we should not have removed all our budget and put it in COVID because these things would happen, and it has happened as we can see. So anyway, as promised, hindi ako magpapakahaba. I just wanted to put on record that the Development Academy of the Philippines is already offering futures thinking courses. So for all our agency heads who are listening today, by all means, please send your top people there. They can also go abroad if they want. Singapore is offering, I think we have a number of high-level people, including from DAP, including one of my consultants who has taken that course in Singapore. And I really urge everyone to look into that. That's all, Mr. Chair. Hindi kita papagurin. You don't have to respond to anything. I just wanted to put that on record. And I'd also like to greet all the agency heads who are with us today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you also, because that is a very, very important question.
Mr. President, if I
the
may.
Senator Angara is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thank the Senior Vice Chair of the Finance Committee, Senator Pia, the Chair of the Ways and Means, and the Futures and SDGs Committee for her brief intervention, not just for its brevity, as you said, Mr. President, but also for its significance, and it's, I think, long overdue. And then finally, we are glad we have a champion for futures thinking in our midst. And we take note of her initiatives to inject futures thinking in the DAP, the Development Academy of the Philippines, whose budget she handles, as well as in the DepEd. We funded that in 2020, but I'm not sure if that was also subjected to FLR. But nonetheless, we remain supportive of her initiatives in this direction, Mr. President. And we also take note, yes, we met some people in Singapore actually when sometime 2015 or 2016 when we were given a tour of the various departments there in that year. And they really have a department whose job is to identify emerging issues, emerging areas. That's why the moves of their government are quite strategic in nature, no? In how they approach investments, in how they approach various government policies. So definitely, Her Honor has our support, Mr. President. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you. Mr. President, sorry, with your indulgence, I just want to put one more thing on the record. Although I no longer chair the committee on women and children, can I just spread into the record, Mr. Chair, that may I ask all the vice chairs in the committees that they are handling to just check about the gender budget, no? There's also a misimpression that pag sinabing gender budget, parang sa babae lang. But the reality is 50% of our population are women. So a lot of this can still be related to COVID, could still be related to health, could still be related to education, but it's specifically intended to bridge any gap that women are experiencing. So, Mr. Chair, can we just ask the vice chairs, no, to just include that in their report when they present the budgets of the other agencies? Thank you. Yes.
That's well taken, Your Honor. We will do as instructed.
All right.
Salamat.
Thank you very much, Senator Gaetano. The original question you posed for the executives got me thinking. What were the engineers of the Philippines after World War II thinking? That Metro Manila will not become a metropolis? Huh? Hindi nag-isip, ano? Anyway, go ahead, Senator Angara.
I wish I knew the answer, Mr. President, but your point is well taken, Mr. President.
Yes.
All right, the Majority Leader, who's next?
Thank you, Mr. President. The next person to propound some questions to the chairperson of the Committee on Finance is no other than our birthday girl, Senator Amy Marcos, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Majority
All right,
Leader.
Senator Marcos.
Thank you very
You're
much.
recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And may I first greet my colleagues for their kind indulgence in letting me off the hook tomorrow, my birthday, by having no questions for the Climate Change Commission, the Philippine Competition Commission, and the Credit Information Corporation. So may birthday leave.
Yeah. We support the birthday girl. Happy birthday, Your Honor, Senator Vice Chair Amy.
Maraming salamat. Thank you first off for letting me off the hook tomorrow. May birthday leave po ako. In the effort to find more financing for so many of our social and health requirements, may we be informed about the lump sums, other lump sums besides those mentioned by Senator Lacson in the 2019 and 2020 budgets? Unang-una, it's very clear that the contingent fund has a balloon from the original 1-2 billion in years past to 5.5 billion in 2017. And since 2018, it has been 13 billion year on year. So, magtatanong lang ako, paano ito ginamit at saan rinelease? Kung pwede natin malaman kasi wala pa namang mga bagong department, wala naman napopondohan na appropriations clause na wala sa mga bagong batas. So, kung may information lang sa contingent fund, baka makadali naman tayo ng konting pera dyan para maibigay sa SAP at iba pang mga kinakailangan. So-
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you for the question. For fiscal year 2021, there is an allotment of 13 billion for the
Yes.
contingent fund, which is the same as this year's allocation. And regarding the utilization, Your Honor, Mr. President, as of July 2020, maybe we have more recent data, but as of July 2020, almost 11 billion was utilized, with the bulk going to the DILG, 551. Oh no, sorry, the bulk going to the DPWH for 10.3 billion. Then the DILG getting 551 million. The DOJ getting 37 million almost. The DFA getting almost 35 million. The DSWD getting almost 10 million, and the Department of Health getting the huge sum of 50,000 pesos.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you very much. If we could be apprised also later on, perhaps, I'm sorry, I was not aware that there was a request for information to be submitted earlier on. If we could be apprised of the projects and programs that these involved, because the contingent fund is quite large. It's once again at 13 billion. And we have been repeatedly told that prudent and proper budget management requires that contingent funds and other such funds should be reduced. So kung maaari, kung maibigay yung mga information tungkol sa mga project na pinondohan sa public works, for example, which clearly need long-term planning given infrastructure, baka may mapala tayo sa mga pondong yan.
We have Your Honor, it's 33 pages. Would you rather I give it to you?
Yeah,
You can
you na
furnish.
lang. Yes, thank you. If you
Yes,
could
yes, Your Honor.
share
We
na
will
lang.
do that.
Thanks
We
so
will do
much.
it, Your Honor.
The other lump sum, Mr. Chair, is the miscellaneous personnel benefits fund, particularly the 7.117 billion for the filling of unfilled positions in 2020. I'm just wondering, dahil itong mga bakanting posisyon na to, nananatili pa rin bakante post-COVID, aling mga ahensya ang binigyan ng funding? Kasi hindi naman nila napil-upan itong mga posisyon. As verified by the Civil Service Commission, how many positions were actually filled up and paid for by these agencies? Baka rin kasi may makuha tayong pera dyan sa 7 billion.
Just to be sure, Your Honor, your question is for 2020, the item of 7.1 billion, how has
Yes.
it been utilized? Okay.
7.117 kasi hindi naman na-fill upan yung miscellaneous personnel benefits fund.
What are these? Pesos ba to? Pesos. And you have what I need to get the position. Your Honor, the distribution of the amount of 7.116 billion approximately, of that amount, 11.8 was released to the Office of the Vice President, 34.5 to the Department of Agriculture, 370 million to the DepEd, almost
Yes.
300 million to the SUKS, almost 150 million to the DOF, 7 point.
Pero kung ganon, Mr. Chair, hindi ba may balanse pa yan? Kasi ang sabi ng civil service, karamihan daw, hindi pa na-fill upan.
No, it's fully utilized in 7.1. No, she's asking about the 7.1. Is that full? That's been fully because 10, meron pala 7. So fully utilized in 7.
Although they're saying that they're fully utilized, upon questioning, the agencies have said that they were not given the funds because they were not able to fill up these positions.
What's the answer? Is it fully utilized in 7? Based on this, it is. The DBM person, resource person here, Your Honor, is saying
Yeah.
that they have released the money to the agencies, but they are not 100% sure if the agencies themselves have filled up the positions.
Yes, because the information from the agencies, including the DA, the DepEd, the SUKS, is that they have not been able to fill up the positions and they've so reported to the Civil Service Commission. I was wondering if there perhaps were savings in that area that we could utilize for 2021.
Well, if that is the case, Your Honor, which may be the case, according to the DBM representative here, the money remains with the agencies.
The agencies complain, in fact, that they weren't given the sums because they had no employees to fill the required items. So there's some confusion. DBM says that they released them. DA, DepEd, and so on claim that the sums were not released because they had no personnel to fill up the vacancies. Anyway, if we seek clarification, baka sakali naman may makuhang savings dyan.
May masaving 7.1.
Kasi mahigit 1,000 ang libo-libo kasi yung mga unfilled items eh.
Yeah, they are saying there's no maybe the confusion lies in the fact that maybe you think the 7.1 is enough to cover all the unfilled positions in the bureaucracy, which I don't think is the case. No, I think 7.1 is just for a portion of the unfilled positions in the bureaucracy. And according to the DBM representative here, Your Honor, they are saying that they have already released the 7.1 to the various agencies.
Yes, if we could get some information with that regard, because there seems to be contrary claims on the part of the agencies.
So the information requested, Your Honor, would be how much is released to which agency, and we have to ask the agencies as to number of positions filled or amounts utilized. Is that correct?
That's right. Thank you very much.
We will furnish, Your Honor. We will furnish.
Salamat. I think the minority leader wants to.
Just on that point, if Senator Marcos can yield the floor, just for a few points on that. I was wondering, I've seen budgets for the past decade, and the miscellaneous benefit personal fund is always a mystery to me. I wish the Department of Budget can be more candid and provide us how they arrived at the sum appropriated for MBPF. Can they tell us that? Is this based on any data, or let's be candid with each other? Is this a dump all item, which is the source of realignment?
I will ask them, Your Honor, because if the former Senate President and former chair of this committee does not understand it, then I have a big feeling I may not understand it
No,
also.
I could not ever figure out how the sum is arrived at.
Yes,
You
yes.
know,
We are asking them now how
because
they arrive at the figure, what the formula is, Your Honor.
Yes, that's precisely my question, Minority Leader. Itong mga lump sum in 2019 and 2020, una yung contingent fund, ikalawa yung miscellaneous personnel benefits fund. Year on year, lumilitaw yan eh. 13 billion, 7 billion. Sana ba nagagastos yan?
the first question is, how is the amount arrived at? What is the what are the factors or what are the needs that would go into the budget for MBPF? Huh? And having said that, how was it disbursed during the budget year? That must be explained because as I said, my suspicion is that this is deliberately bloated for convenience so that it becomes an item which can be easily realigned. So it would be interesting to know, Mr. President, how the budget for MBPF was utilized, say, in the last 5 years. And I suspect that many expenses would have nothing to do with personnel benefit or filling up of vacancies. They would be used to augment other items in the budget, which has nothing to do with vacancies, with retirements, I'm glad that the Senator Marcos raised this, and I'm interested in having some detail on this point. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
We're just waiting for the. May we move to the next question, Your Honor?
Yes.
So while they
Yes,
are
Mr. Chair.
coming up with a response.
The three lump sums that I was inquiring about, yung contingent, tapos yung miscellaneous personnel nga, tapos yung ikatlong lump sum na parati kong pinagtatakahan, yung National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Fund. Kasi naka-lump sum siya, pero pag kinausap po sina Yusek Halad, he constantly protests the failure of DBM to send the money over to him. And kinuha daw para sa Marawi, kinuha daw para sa COVID o kung saan. Magkano ba talaga na-disburse sa NDRRMC at paano ginastos? Siguro kung malaman natin yan, maintindihan rin natin yung lump sum na yan.
How? The question, Your Honor, is how has the NDREAM been disbursed for 2020?
Yes, because, and how much was actually given to them? Because they complain that whatever was stated in the GAA never arrives to them in full.
GAA is 16. So magkano na-arrive dun sa kanila? Magkano ang na-obligate and magkano ang na-disburse? Ano? That's not QR, that's QRF, right? He's asking about NDREAM 16.
Iba naman po yung QRF, di ba? Meron yung DSWD, DA, DPWH, iba naman yata yun.
16, not the NDREAM, not the QRF.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to take it up in another session, perhaps with the NDRRMC when they're on schedule.
This is from DBM? Your Honor, I'm starting to get some responses here.
Yes.
For the record, for fiscal year 2020, the General Appropriations Act, the NDREAM Fund, or National Disaster Risk Reduction, what's the M?
16B?
Management Fund is 16 billion for
Yeah,
the record.
16.
And you
Yeah.
break it down, Marawi RRP, what does RRP stand for?
Rehab siguro.
Marawi Rehab got 3.5 billion. The earthquake victims of Region 6 and Region 11 and Region 12 got 5 billion. And there is an item called the NDREAM program, which represents 7.5 billion. I want to know what is the breakdown of the 7.5 billion here. That's still a lump sum. I think the
Yes.
lady senator, our vice chair, wants to know what is the breakdown of the lump sums rather than new lump sums.
Medyo lagi kami ni Senator Lacson ninenervyos sa lump sum. Alam naman po ninyo.
No, that's very well taken, Your Honor. I think lump sums are anathema to good budgeting practice. Now, what is NDREAM program? Saan napunta yan? Your Honor, if we could
Yes.
submit the
Sure,
7.5 billion,
Yes,
they are
po.
not giving me any
That's all right.
breakdown as of now.
Sure, and I apologize for not putting in the request for information earlier. I was not aware.
No problem, Your Honor, because we also just made the request today
Okay.
regarding the procedural. So no, there's no it's not an issue, Your Honor, at this moment. We don't take it against her.
No problem ba?
Here, they're giving me something, Your Honor, if I may read it. For the 7.5, there is a release of 500 million to the DOH, 1.5 billion to the DA, 992
Million
million
or billion yung DA?
to the DND, 662 million 500,000 to the DSWD, and 2.7 billion approximately to the DPWH. That is the leaving an available balance for as of today, as of September 30 of 1.138 billion of the 7.5 billion, Your Honor.
Pero yung nabanggit, puro yata itong mga QRF, yung DA, DSWD. Sigurado tayo hindi QRF yan ng department.
It is an augmentation of their QRF, Your Honor.
I see. So over and above yan.
Over and above the QRF, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I will be very happy to receive the breakdown. Sabi po ninyo, 30 plus pages nung
Yes,
contingent
we'll
fund.
give you that within the day, Your Honor. In fact,
Okay,
we'll
the
instruct the
contingent
committee
fund of 13
as we speak to
billion.
furnish.
Thank
Yes, Your
you.
Honor.
And the miscellaneous personnel of 7 billion as well as the NDRRMC of 16 billion.
Certainly, Your Honor.
Thank you, because
Certainly.
those lump sums are always problematic po.
Yeah, billion.
Thank you for your indulgence, Your Honor.
I think Senator Cynthia?
Yes, I want to interject in the connection of NDREAM Fund.
Yes, Your Honor.
As I discovered that without telling me, they transferred the greening program of the DNR to the NDREAM Fund. So I was thinking na, ba't naman ita-transfer doon? Wala naman pala yung hindi na-account yan. Basta kung ano-ano nilalagay nila dyan. I mean, without even telling me, I'm the chairman of the committee on DNR. They got my budget without even telling me. It's okay for me to get my budget, but they should tell me. When the budget arrived, it's different. And they removed the greening program. And I have many things which I want to do in DNR. If I only know that they will remove it from DNR, I could have suggested those things which I want to do in DNR. But they remove it without telling me. So, and I think it went to the NDREAM Fund. Can I ask Mr. Chairman if it went to the NDREAM Fund?
Yes, there was an augmentation of
So the NDREAM Fund pala, hindi naman pala ina-account, parang at their discretion. I hope that next time, if you remove the budget of our committee, you will tell us where it will go and how it will be used to make sure that it will be better used in that new account than in the previous account. That's my request.
Yes, Your Honor. It's a well-taken request, and
I hope you will bring
for
it
any
back
lack
and
of
I will decide
consultation.
where it will be placed.
Yes, Your Honor. If there's any shortcomings on the committee, we apologize for that, and we assume that the committee was able to communicate with
No,
with the
no.
vice chairs.
I just saw the committee report and it has been changed without telling me. So I hope you will not do it again. I never do it to any committee.
Yes, Your
I
Honor. Yes, Your
always
Honor.
I always do what is given. I just spend what is given to me. So I hope you will not do it to me because I never do it to any senators.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Yes, Minority Leader yata. Opo.
Yes, Mr. President,
Yes,
just
Senator Dillon, go ahead.
yes, just a consistent with the request of Senator Marcos. May I request that the committee, that the good sponsor, provide us with data on the miscellaneous benefit personal fund on an annual basis, 2018, 2019, 2020, and then the proposed budget in 2021. And in the 2018, 19, 20, how much was it and how much was disbursed and where? And how was the budget in the National Expenditure Program arrived at insofar as the MBPF is concerned? Because as far as we know, this is precisely the title is miscellaneous benefit personal fund to answer for vacancies that will be filled, to answer for for retirement or terminal pay, or conversion of leave credits. In other words, it is as the budget item suggests, it's for to cover personnel benefits. So we would be interested to know how much was it, how was it arrived at, how much was realigned, how was it disbursed for those years. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Just the data is for our interpolation when we get to that portion of the budget. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, just to place, thank you to the Minority Leader for the question. We're still awaiting the response as to how they come up with the fund every year. I've requested for that, and the staff of the Senate Budget Office is now conferring with the DBM representative for a clear answer. But for 2019, the MPBF was approximately 35.5 billion pesos. For 2020, the current fiscal year, the MPBF is 56.578 approximately billion pesos. And for 2021, the proposed budget for the MPBF is 29.27 approximately billion pesos, Mr.
Yes,
President.
I guess firstly, if we can have also 2018, and then how was the budget, for example, of 35 billion for 2019 arrived at? For 2020, how was the budget of 56.5 billion arrived at? And in the proposed 2021, 29.2 billion, how was it arrived at? And in the past years, how was this utilized? Was this
Based on request. How does it work?
realigned?
Mr. President, this is what the information given to us by the DBM representative is that the filling up of positions is estimated, or the amount, the total amount arrived at every year is estimated, a rough estimate is at 30% of the personnel services cost of unfilled positions. That is the basis for the figure of the amount for the MPBF, Your Honor.
I will not press now. I would request that a more accurate picture be given to us based on the data rather than the answers that are given now. I'm not in a hurry. As we said, we just need the data for better understanding when we come to the portion of the budget.
Yes, Your Honor, we will submit.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Chair, I'd like to echo the minority leader's concern that perhaps the basis of calculating the miscellaneous personnel is a bit random, given that some of these unfilled positions have actually remained vacant for many, many years. Surely after 2 years, these items should either disappear or its budget be diminished. Kasi yung kinakalculate nilang 30% ng PS na unfilled, parang forever na siya. Eh, hindi naman dapat ganon. So, yun lang, including the contingent fund, kung bakit lumobo. Dati, 1-2 billion lang yan. Nung nasa Congress tayo, bakit naging 13 billion na yan? At pagkalaki-laki, at ano yung basehan ng exclusion, ika nga, ng contingent fund. Yun lang yung tanong. Anyway, may I move to another topic po? And this is the fear and the warning from many economists, sa macro naman po tayo, that we're headed toward a liquidity trap. We are all unanimous in applauding the BSP's efforts in using monetary policy to address the COVID crisis. The question has been asked about fiscal policy, whether it has in fact supported adequately the monetary policy. We already know that monetary policy is limited in its ability to stimulate demand. As a matter of fact, we are being warned of excessive speculation and risk-taking, evidenced by the suddenly buoyant Philippine stock market. Also, Professor Chiquiamco is now recommending that there should be a weakening of the Philippine peso to avoid the risk of currency wars. To your mind po, has our fiscal response been strong enough? Because after all, credit facilities installed by the monetary authorities can only assure the power to lend, but not to spend. Di ba sabi yun ni US Federal Reserve Chair Jay Powell, have we adequately supported demand through cash, digital infrastructure investment, large-scale healthcare, and other infrastructure? Sa palagay ninyo, in other words, magkakaroon pa ba ng Bayanihan 3 or another stimulus package? Dahil maliit masyado yung less than 4% ng GDP na ginagastos natin.
Your Honor, Mr. President, I'm not sure if we have a definite answer yet on whether there will be another stimulus package along the lines of Bayanihan 3. But in our meeting, if I may share in the meeting with the House leaders and my counterpart in the House and the Senate President and the Pro Temp Recto, there was talk of a possible stimulus, if not next year, even later this year, if the congressional schedule would allow, given there's only a few weeks left in our calendar, it might be a tall order, Your Honor. But there are talks, but it has not just reached the level of the executive legislative coordinating level, Your Honor. So I don't know how the economic managers feel about another stimulus package, Your Honor. No, so but I think the House leaders feel strongly about having another stimulus package.
Yes, that's precisely the problem, because once again, good budgetary management requires that we should plan for it now, as early as now, ideally included in the GAA of 2021, instead of all these piecemeal, emergency, essentially very rushed legislation. So kung alam na rin natin, nakukulangin yung Bayanihan 1 and 2 at mangangailangan tayo ng Bayanihan 3 or some such stimulus package, eh siguro dapat pag-isipan na natin ngayon pa lang. Yun lang yung itatanong ko sana. The last question derives from the local government executives. As we are well aware, Is the DBM present po? Are they included in the macro and the general principles?
Sino?
Ay,
They're here,
DBM
Your Honor.
resource.
Secretary Abisado is on the screen. He's present
Oh,
virtually.
okay. So, pwedeng magtanong tungkol sa DBM. Opo.
Yes. They are part of the discussion, Your Honor, and their budget is also under consideration.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. A lot of important items in the local government support fund, including the assistance to municipalities, cities, and financial assistance to the LGUs, including the conditional matching grant for provinces, are no longer budgeted in 2021. Noong 2020, there was supposedly 8 over billion. 2021, the entire CMGP has been subsumed by the Barangay Development Program, which has in turn been subsumed by the NTF-LCAC. The sense of the LGUs is that for 822 barangays, all the roads and bridges of 81 provinces, 42,046 barangays, and 146 cities has been denied them. So, ano po ang dapat gawin dyan? Kasi ang sabi po ni Secretary Abisado dati, yung CMGP at saka LGSF, lahat yan Barangay Development Fund. Pero yung Barangay Development Fund, nag-disappear na rin. Naging NTF-LCAC at saka 822 lang na barangay ang makikinabang dyan. Ganito po ba talaga ang sitwasyon? Wala nang tulong sa anumang LGU?
Your Honor, under the LGSF, there is 28 billion lodged there, and 16 billion is for the NTF-LCAC or the Barangay Development Fund, whereas there is another 12 billion available for all other LGUs, not included in the 822 barangays, Your Honor.
Yes, Mr. Chair, as you're well aware, 822 barangays, hindi ba pwede bawas-bawasan yung 20 million sa kada isa? Kasi nga, yung 12 billion, paano man kakasyahin ng 42,000 barangays na wala sa listahan ng LCAC? Yung 81 provinces, yung 146 cities, lahat sila zero sa palagay nila. Kasi yung 12 billion, imposibleng magkasya. Talaga bang ganon? Ang problema kasi yung CMGP particularly, they cannot proceed and they merely have, for example, half a bridge, which is ludicrous, or kinaskas nila yung kalsada at widening. Wala namang pera para sa pagsisimento. Paano ba yung ganon? Kasi nakatiwang wala yan eh.
Your Honor, we should also note that there's also the internal revenue allotment. So there is almost 700 billion going out to the various LGUs that is the amount included under the automatic appropriation. So that is the amount set forth by the local government code for the LGUs. And the 12 billion is on top of whatever they get under the ERA.
Yes, Mr. Chair, but with all due respect, the real value of the sharing era of the LGUs is reduced for 2021 because of smaller collections, understandably. So lumiit din ang kanilang share in national income. Yan ang problema, kaya nagre-reklamo. Ito may specific question ng LGU, huli na lamang. Under Section 19 of the proposed general provision sa NEP, all agencies shall purchase its common use supplies requirement from the procurement service mandated under LOI 755, and this provision is also contained in the previous budget. Why is this provision made applicable to LGUs? Total, wala namang bidding ngayon. Exempted sa procurement process, palibhasa emergency. Lahat ng PPE and other COVID testing equipment and supplies seem to fall under the common use supplies category. Why are the LGUs required to procure their COVID-related equipment, even from their local sources, from DBMPS? That's the understanding and complaint of many of our provinces.
What's LOI? We're checking, Your Honor, if that applies to LGUs.
I think in practice it has applied, and that's been the universal experience that they have to go through DBMPS, and these are emergency acquisitions, they're emergency purchases. Wala namang bidding yan talaga o procurement. Kaso, pinapadaan sa DBMPS na natatagalan.
Well, I would think there's autonomy on the part of
Yun
local
na eh.
governments.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm happy you agree with our sense that the financial autonomy that was legislated under the local government code is clearly what should be followed, as opposed to these requisites that have been imposed by various administrative orders. Siguro pwede na natin baguhin to at tanggalin yung Section 19 dyan sa general provisions ng NEP.
Well, if I were the only person involved, I would agree. Maybe we can ask the DBM if that's okay to remove that provision, Your Honor. But will maybe tackle that at the
Yes,
during
yes.
the period of amendments, Your Honor.
Yes, thank you. I'll be happy to do that. I'm just reporting to the body that the LGUs, given that they're spending their own funds, should be allowed some freedom in the purchase of these emergency equipment and supplies. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That will be all.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, for the very searching and important questions. And again, a happy birthday, Your Honor. And we will furnish the data you requested. And of course, we will try to solicit an answer also from the Department of Budget regarding your proposed amendment, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Yes,
Mr. President.
Leader.
Yeah, Mr. President, I've been getting a flood of messages, Mr. President, with the permission of the body, just to share. I've been getting a flood of messages on Viber and text message as well that it's signal number 3 in Metro Manila, and they've called off work already in Manila and in the Supreme Court. Do we soldier on, Mr. President, or actually I'm worried about our staff in the Senate building. What would be the decision, Mr. President? Do we continue? Because I just got messages that Supreme Court has called off and all the Manila government offices in Manila have been suspended as well due to Typhoon Ulysses. And the Office of the President as well came out, Mr. President, with a under the recommendation of the National Disaster Risk and Reduction Management Council, the continuing inclement due to the continuing inclement weather, government offices in regions 2, 3, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, Cordillera, as well as the National Capital Region are hereby suspended at 3 p.m. today, Mr. President. So we just like to know, with the permission of the body, what's the pleasure of the body on this particular issue, out of course, compassion to our workers, Mr. President.
I will leave it to the chairman of the Committee on Finance.
Your Honor, I'm here inside the inside the plenary where I don't the windows are not even open, so I don't even know if it's raining outside, Your Honor, Mr. President. I don't know what to say, honestly.
You recognize the Minority Floor Leader, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
Minority
if I
Leader,
may, I think there is no harm in our suspending the deliberations today, not because of us, because we are in the safety of our homes, but our staff, including the LBRMO and the other staff in the Senate. I think it will not harm us if we allow our staff to go home already. This is a fortuitous event. We didn't expect this. We were prepared to work until tonight, but given the circumstances, I would like to, I think it's best that we allow our people to go home, resume again tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Thank you, Mr. President.
But actually the feedback that I'm getting is the problem is tomorrow, not tonight, not today. The forecast is tomorrow. They
Okay.
are, let me, if there is no objection,
Do you want to
I am
suspend, Mr.
asking
President, first?
the,
Do you want to suspend to
no,
to
it's
talk to
okay.
Secretariat?
I'm tasking the Sergeant at Arms to check the schedule, to check the weather outside. And in the meantime, let's finish off the next one while we're
Okay,
waiting
Mr.
for the
President.
report. It's early, it's just before 3 o'clock.
Mr. President, Majority Leader, I have a list of, we routed forms for our senators to indicate which agencies they will interpellate. And there is a list of agencies here of those agencies where no one will interpellate. So perhaps while the Senate leadership is discussing the issue of whether to suspend deliberations of the budget, perhaps we could let go of some of the uh, agencies with the permission of the members, Your Honor.
Such as, may I ask, Mr. President, which ones? There might be some that.
Your Honor, for the record, there is the National Intelligence Coordinating Authority, or NICA, the National Security Council, NSC, the Office of the Vice President, OVP, the Dangerous Drugs Board, the Mindanao Development Authority, the Office of the Presidential Advisor on the Peace Process, or OPAP, the PLLO, or Presidential Legislative Liaison Office, the SPDA, Southern Philippines Development Authority, the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, the National Library of the Philippines, the National Archives of the Philippines, the Commission of the Filipino Language, the Cultural Center of the Philippines, the DAP, the Development Academy of the Philippines, the Energy Regulatory Commission, the Office of the President, the Games and Amusements Board, the Presidential Management Staff, or PMS, the APECO, or Aurora Pacific Economic Zone and Freeport Authority, the Authority of the Freeport Area of Bataan, the Subic Bay Metropolitan Authority, the Philippine Racing Commission, the Home Guarantee Corporation, the Philippine Postal Corporation, the Philippine Competition Commission, the Credit Information Corporation, the Department of Labor and Employment, the Commission on Filipinos Overseas, the Philippine Space Agency, the Philippine Center for Economic Development, the Optical Media Board, the Movie and Television Review and Classification Board, the Cagayan Economic Zone Authority, the Zamboanga City Special Economic Zone Authority. Those are the agencies, Mr. President, and I wanted to reiterate my request to the body, if there are no objections, that we let these budgets go already. So that would sort of allow us to focus on the agencies and give us a certain comfort level, Your Honor, Mr. President.
Will you give me the last 7 names that you mentioned, or can you give me a list of what you
Yes.
said, of what you were reading? Because the Senate Secretary and the Sergeant at Arms were disturbing me. I could not.
Yeah,
Mr.
I have the
President.
same predicament, Your Honor. When someone is asking a question, that's when the agencies like to talk to me. When
Mr. President, may I make a suggestion, Mr. President? May we be just given a copy, furnish the list. There are some agencies there that are quite interesting. I noticed some of my colleagues were lifting their heads up when some of the agencies were being called. If it's all right, Mr. President, we can do that for tomorrow. We can reserve that for tomorrow, unless we're not going to go to work tomorrow, Mr. President.
can we suspend for 1 minute, Mr. President?
Yes, I think that will be the best thing to do. Session is suspended.